upwards of 60 units that went there, according to Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. There's a big staging area for all the reporters and media members to gather their information. Of course, we are working our information, our sources, to see if there's any more that we can pass to you. And we are just hearing right now, Camrell Eppinger, our live reporter at the scene, is now live for us with the latest from the scene. Cam, can you hear us?
Yes, Mike, I can hear you. We're still a little lean on details, lots of questions and answers. But what we can confirm is that this has really turned into a massive search and rescue effort. I want to go ahead and show you some live video of the scene right now. This is at a high-rise condo building right along 88th Street in Collins. This is in the Surfside community, which is just north of Miami Beach. Now, these dramatic pictures show a huge section of the building has been reduced to a pile of rubble, and this happened all around 2 o'clock this morning. We're told more than 80 firefighters with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue are currently here on scene, as well as the county's technical rescue team. And we're told that these are highly trained firefighters who are trained to remove people from trap situations just like this. And just to give you some background on this condo building, this is called the Champlain Towers South. This is a 12-story high-rise condominium with oceanfront views. It was built back in 1981, so it's about 40 years old, and it has 130 units. Now, we're also been told that one witness did post a video to social media of the aftermath, saying that he had to be evacuated from his hotel, which he was staying at, which was right across the street. Now, we've also been told by officials that residents who are inside the towers have been moved to the Surfside community. Again, this is a developing story, very fluid situation. As soon as we learn more details, we'll be sure to pass them along to you. We're live this morning in Surfside. I'm Camrell Eppinger, Wptv News Channel 5.
Cam, if you are still there, stay with us. And we know we have these live pictures. It's a different perspective. Can the camera kind of pan off? What do you see behind you? There's a media staging area, and you have ambulances and fire crews. What exactly are you seeing from your perspective directly behind you that we haven't seen yet?
Right. Right. Well, Mike, I'm going to step out of the way. We're actually about 2 blocks away from where this incident happened. And yes, as you mentioned, this is the media staging area. So this is essentially a field where we're all set up at. At my vantage point, I can see dozens and dozens of police officers. We also have dozens of fire trucks here. I see Miami Beach Fire along with Surfside. I've also seen some police officers with North Miami Beach. So definitely a massive effort here from multiple agencies from around the county here on this part of Miami-Dade.
Obviously, Camrell, and great reporting, great hustle to get down there this morning as well. You know, they want to keep the media away from that building because at this point they don't know if it's unsafe, correct? Still.
Right. Right. Yes, Mike. Mike, that is correct. And as I mentioned earlier, all we know at this point is this has really turned into a massive search and rescue effort. We're waiting to hear if anyone was injured and whatnot. As soon as we learn more information, we'll be sure to pass those details along to you.
All right, that's our Camrell Eppinger live from the scene about 2 blocks away from that partial buildings collapse on Collins Avenue, Surfside section of Miami. Cam, we'll check back in with you. We'll let you gather those details. We appreciate your hustle down there. Let's get to Katia right now. We want to know what it's like when you walk out the door. Katia.
Mild and muggy to start off the day.
WPTV Weather Pilot 5 is sponsored by your South Florida Honda dealers.
Breaking news from WPTV News Channel 5.
And that breaking news is out of Miami. A partial building collapse of a 12-story condo. Working to learn much more in Holland. We have a crew on the scene, don't we?
Yeah, we know this happened probably between 1:30, 2 o'clock this morning. WPTV anchor Michael Williams. This is his neck of the woods. We did call him. He is at the scene right now. Michael, our NBC colleagues reporting that at one point...
I hear you. Hi, I hear you.
All right, we want to get back here because there are several live feeds going on. Obviously, we do want to eventually get back to Michael, our Camrell Eppinger, about 2 blocks from that scene.
Right.
And 2 blocks the media staging area because it's just unclear how unstable this building is right now.
Right. Let's see if we can ask our producers as well, once they get an opportunity, if we can pull up some live images for you.
We are hearing that, Holland, pardon me, that we are hearing Michael Williams is available
is he ready
right
for us?
now.
Okay.
Our evening anchor. He is there. He woke up early, got to the scene. Michael, what are you seeing
Michael,
from your
good morning.
Good morning to you. As you look behind me, the famed Collins Avenue, and look, Bob Leak, our photographer, will move into the building, Champlain Towers South. Roughly 135 units to this building, according to Miami-Dade County records. The collapse happened according to police and rescue workers, and there are many, many, many dozens of rescue vehicles here from across South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Hialeah, you name it. The damage has occurred on the ocean side of the building. So I believe we have some pictures perhaps we can go to right now that give you a first glimpse of the damage. Literally, one person described it, said, I walked out and suddenly part of the building simply was not there. And again, on the ocean side of the building you're looking at live from our vantage point, just about a block away, Champlain Towers South, here in Miami-Dade County. You can see, I don't know if Bob can push in on it, and I don't know if you'll see it clearly, but you see rescue ladders on the west side of the building, so the A1A side, Collins Avenue side, working their way through units, trying to make their way to the collapsed side of this building. Again, early reports, and I do emphasize early reports, suggest this building was some perhaps 20, 25 years or older. Again, at this early point, it is all about trying to get in there and find people who may be trapped, find those who've injured. We have no firm casualty count at this point right now. I was down the street and I bumped in, sadly, to a young lady and her friend who were on their phones in tears. I stopped briefly. She said to me, a friend of mine and my parents have been or are in the building, and I do not know, through tears she told me, how they are doing, frantically trying to reach loved ones to find out what they can. You may know more there at the desk about the latest on potential casualty counts. But again, a mass casualty incident that has drawn in hundreds of rescue personnel from around the South Florida region. I want to bring in my colleague, Cameron Ebinger, got a bit early. Tell us a little bit more about what you're hearing about the building, about the background of the place, and your first gauge of the scene as you arrived.
So when we arrived, there was dozens of firefighters. We also saw police officers from multiple units, such as North Miami Beach Police as well. So we're talking nearly 80 firefighters, rescue crews from all across the county. Now, I did some digging as far as getting into the background of this building. It's called, as you mentioned earlier, Champlain Towers South. Now, this is a 12-story high-rise building. We're told that this incident happened on the ocean side of this building. This was built back in 1981, so it's a relatively new building. We're talking about 40 years old. We're told also, I looked and saw that it had about 130 units at the building. But as we can mentioned earlier, this has really turned into a massive search and rescue effort here in the Surfside community, Mike.
Cameron, as you and I step aside, but stay live with me, Cameron. Bob Leak, as you pan, you get some sense even from, it's all right, come over. You get some sense as you pan around this scene, just even a small degree here, at the number of vehicles. Even within our eye span, we see dozens of police, dozens of fire rescue vehicles. You see the ladders, at least from the human eye vantage point, showing us the scene as they're trying to go through this building so carefully. A collapsed building on the ocean side. Again, Collins and A1A right at about 88th and A1A, Collins Avenue, as it's known here on Miami Beach. And we continue to monitor the scene from here. And I would throw it to you for a moment. Are you hearing anything on the desk on updated casualty numbers? Because that's what so many people are frantically gathered now to try to find out about their loved ones in these pre-dawn hours, about the casualty list here at the Champlain Towers South, a condominium building, some 40 years old, 135 units, a huge collapse on the ocean side of the building. We have pictures of that early scene as rescuers came flying here about 2 hours ago. Tell us what you're hearing from your end there.
Mike Trim here. As we're taking a look at that video, it appears to be the first video after that collapse, and we are working on getting you the video. We are now hearing from some residents. I just want to read to you before we get that video on air. There's a woman that says she saw a plume of smoke, opened her sliding glass door, and part of the building had pancaked. So when we're checking with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, all of our sources as well, to learn how many, if any, casualties there are, how many people were hospitalized, along with what exactly is the search and rescue mission right now,
And
because
Mike,
it appears that some of that, and pardon me while some of our producers are talking to us right now. Go ahead behind the scenes.
Mike, our NBC colleagues also conveying that at this point they have seen those rescue workers carrying a boy out onto a stretcher. So as we have been reiterating, this is very much a search and rescue mission going on right now. Some of the video there moving very quickly, but if you take a close look, and this is what witnesses there on the scene are describing, I mean, it is a massive, a heaping pile of rubble, very, very tall there, that fell when the ocean side of the building gave way. Again, as our reporters have been saying, this is a fairly brand new building in terms of age. So 30 to 40 years old, you put that in perspective, not very old at all. A lot of people, you've got to imagine, given the time of morning that this happened, they were asleep, had no idea what was going on. And again, as Michael Williams described to us from the scene, several people now gathering in that area, trying to get through to their loved ones who were in and are in that building.
You've seen the crews right there. They are going balcony to balcony. If you take a look at your top right-hand corner, I mean, they're in that part of the 12-story building. As they're zooming in right now, the crews from the scene, boy, you can just see them with their flashlights taking a look. It's a 12-story building. Our camera Levenger reported earlier this was built in 1981. It's on the oceanfront side that collapsed, as Holland just mentioned, at about 1:30. If we do have, just want to show a quick map, if we could get to that. If you're not super familiar with the Miami area, Collins Avenue, as Michael Williams on scene just mentioned earlier. We'll show you that in a bit, but as they pan back out, you can see the entirety of that building, 12 stories, and it was just a partial collapse. We are working to get more information, of course. Anybody trapped inside. We do see that ladder. They've been working in that particular area for quite a bit right now. We saw one resident on that balcony that they were trying to help out, and now they're taking that ladder and that bucket down a little ways. The media staging area, you see our Michael Williams. We're going to get back to him right now. Michael, what are you seeing from a clear vantage point from where you're standing?
Well, the vantage point from the pictures you have is tragically much more illustrative of what is going on with this mass casualty incident. To be standing here, you cannot, from my perspective, see damage. You can simply see the signs that there has been a mass casualty incident because of the dozens upon dozens upon dozens of rescue vehicles here, police, law enforcement personnel, fire rescue personnel here. We don't know the casualty estimates here. We all pray that it will be a low casualty count, and we will count it a miracle if, in fact, that comes to pass. We simply don't know. It's almost unfathomable in this day and age, you would think, for a relatively new building built in 1981 with today's inspections and codes for something like this to happen on Tony Collins Avenue in the Surfside area, just above what many of you would be familiar with. We're about 40 blocks or so north of the Fontainebleau. For those of you perhaps don't come to Miami that often, the Fontainebleau Hotel, one of the iconic landmarks of Miami Beach, would be about 40th or so and Collins. So we're up at about 88th and Collins, so about 40 blocks away on the north end of Miami Beach, the Surfside area. And again, you look at all of the condos, and perhaps, Bob Lee, pull out to a slightly wider shot to give a sense of the number of condominiums that dot the landscape here on the upper reaches of Miami Beach. And also, Bob, then when you're done with that, if you can, Mike Trim, notice this, you push in and you see the rescue ladders working their way into the building from the west side, the unaffected part of the building, to get to the collapsed portion of the Champlain Tower South, the name of the condominium where this mass casualty incident occurred, 1:32 this morning. A huge collapse on the east side, the ocean side, that with this live picture you cannot see, but we're beginning to get early pictures in to show that. And people gathering here, as I said a few moments ago, for those of you just joining us, a young couple here trying to find out about how their loved ones are doing. How are my parents doing? The young lady said to me, I simply do not know. They were frantically working the phones and trying to see if they might, by some miracle, reach them here at a staging area for those who were injured, but perhaps able to get out on their own. Also, hospitals on high alert here, and the trauma network system, of course, here and elsewhere. Mutual aid here as we're seeing fire rescue units from Fort Lauderdale, Hialeah, all over Miami-Dade County gathering here. You will see state and perhaps even federal level inspectors coming in here rapidly to try and assess what's going on. As Mike pointed out, what's the safety of the building remaining right now? That, of course, a critical concern right now. So it's not only the hugely damaged part of this 12-story condominium that they have to be worried about as they do search and rescue work. It is also what is the stability of the rest of the building that they will have to clear. This time of year, how many people would be in that building? There's still, to some extent, a tourism season that ebbs and flows where many people call these places home and then towards the summer may leave. But we do not know, let me emphasize, we do not know how full the building was when this horrendous collapse happened in the pre-dawn hours, and one cannot even begin to imagine the horror of people as this collapse occurred in the deep of night. And now all of South Florida and indeed much of the country looking in on this mass casualty incident. Miami-Dade County Fire Rescue does have one of the premier urban search and rescue units. They go far and wide around the nation and around the globe, and they are being pressed into service, that world-famous Miami-Dade Urban Search and Rescue Team, as part of this massive search as they try to assess a casualty count. As again, you look live at Champlain Tower South, you see the fire ladders trying to get up into the reaches of the building on the west side, the Collins Avenue side here at 88th and Collins in Miami Beach, the north end of Miami Beach, working their way across the building, and again, the collapsed portion of the building on the oceanfront side. And we continue to try to gather information from this media staging point where all eyes are focused at this hour on this collapse and trying to learn about casualty counts as a community comes together and prays for those who are in the building and for their rescuers who are now working their way through, trying to ascertain the full extent of the human element of this horrible, horrible, almost as I said, unfathomable collapse here on Miami Beach of this condominium tower. Back to you.
You have talked a little bit about this. This is a very populous area. You saw all of the condominiums stretched there. There's also, we should point out, hotels in the area. People were staying, again, prime tourism season here in South Florida, so folks were staying across the street. One person who did get some video says they actually had to evacuate. So it's not just that immediate building, the tenants there affected, but for all intents and purposes, the surrounding area as well.
And for the first time right now, we are hearing from residents and people that witnessed this firsthand. Let's get right to them and hear what they had to say minutes ago.
Make this club available in every school in America. That's my biggest dream. Giving people their voices back is our goal, is my goal, really.
Tanya Rogers, WPTV News Channel 5.
Breaking news from WPTV News Channel 5.
Right now, we are following breaking news from Miami.
Yeah, you can see the map right there where we're talking about Collins Avenue, and we do have new video. We have live looks from the scene. A building collapse, a 12-story building partially collapsed on Collins Avenue in the Surfside area on the ocean side of that.
WPTV News Channel 5's Michael Williams leading off our coverage this morning. He is there right now gathering the very latest. Michael, good morning.
Standing alongside Collins Avenue, the famed Collins Avenue, you look over my right shoulder at the Champlain Towers South condo at 8777 Collins Avenue. The first light of dawn beginning to illustrate what the bright lights of dozens of fire rescue vehicles have framed in tragic relief since about 1:30, 2 o'clock this morning. Again, the partial collapse, as my photographer Bob Leak pushes in, you can see fire rescue ladders working the west side, the Collins Avenue side of this building. The partial collapse is obscured from your vision here, but perhaps we can bring up the pictures as I talk of some of the images of the partial collapse that has occurred on, if you will, the ocean side of the building, a 135-unit condominium built in 1981. Early reports. According to NBC6, one report, a fire rescue worker seen pulling a child from the rubble. Other reports that at least one firefighter had to be taken to the hospital. Anything more in terms of a definitive casualty count, we are simply trying to understand at this point. Again, this condominium, some 135 units, a partial collapse, as perhaps you bring up some of the pictures that came in in the overnight hours of a collapse that happened roughly 1:32 in the morning. The horror of this, deep in the night, suddenly, as witnesses described it, this enormous, almost thunderous sound that woke them and jolted them quite literally from their beds in nearby condominiums, as we come back live to our picture and pull out to show you the expanse of this part of Collins Avenue. And fire rescue vehicles from across multiple counties now on scene, and that would include Miami-Dade County's famed, in fact, world-famous urban search and rescue team as they go into this building, try to find those who have been injured. We do not, again, know the casualty count at this point. This entire community crossing its fingers, holding its breath. I ran into a young woman and her partner about an hour ago. Through tears, she told me, I'm trying to get a hold of my mom and dad. My parents live in the Champlain Towers South condo, and I do not know what has happened to them. And that is the sad, sad, tragic lament of so many people this morning as we try to find out what happened. This is purely a rescue operation right now, searching through the entire 12-story building to try and determine where people are. Have they all been pulled to safety, those who could be, and trying to get this mass casualty incident framed in terms of the help, the rescue, getting people to hospitals as need be. But we just don't have casualty estimates at this point. At this first dawn light, we begin to see the scene revealed more to us, though. And Cameron Eppinger, you've been on scene for the last few hours as well, Cameron. And as you worked the perimeter, the enormity of this mass casualty incident, this partial collapse, is daunting.
Yeah, Mike, it's kind of hard to tell from our vantage point, being that where we're set up here, this is the media staging area, but I just took a walk around the perimeter, and actually one thing I did see in particular, I saw a woman. She was at the bus stop. She was on the phone, and she was crying. I didn't want to approach her, of course, but it appears as though her family members was involved in this situation. Just that dramatic scene alone really speaks to the volume of what we're dealing with right now. Again, she was at the bus stop on the phone crying. Now, I also, when I was walking the perimeter, I did speak with some neighbors who live right across from here, about 2 blocks down in an apartment building. They said they're out watching the scene right now unfold from their back door. They said they didn't hear anything, but they were just surprised to see the magnitude of police officers and the sirens at around 1:30 this morning. They said they didn't hear anything, probably because of where the incident happened on the ocean side, which is on the other side of the building. We can't really see much at this vantage point, but they were just shocked to see the amount of firefighters who are here on scene. We're talking nearly 80 firefighters from all across, minimally all across the county. Miami Beach, of course, North Miami Beach, Fort Lauderdale, even as far south as Coral Gables. And we also know that the TRT team is here, the Technical Rescue Team, which are specially trained firefighters who are trained to remove people from trap situations such as this.
That's, as I mentioned, the Miami-Dade County Fire Rescue Urban Search and Rescue Team, one of the best in the world and recognized as such. The tremendous logistical challenge being faced right now is they're working against time to try to get through the partially collapsed portions of the building. As you look at my live picture, perhaps mixed with some of the first images of the partial collapse. Again, the damage to our eye live is not revealed to us, but it is in pictures that have been taken from the ocean side of the Champlain Tower South condo here at 8777 Collins Avenue on the northern end of Miami Beach here, about 40 blocks north of the iconic Fontainebleau Hotel, for those of you who've come to Miami Beach, and to kind of set where we are geographically for you. The challenge for fire rescue, though, is they don't know what the stability of the building remains to be at this point. You've had a partial collapse. They have to guard against what else could happen. Get in, ascertain that, work their way through the building. We've seen them up at the highest reaches of this 12-story building with flashlights working their way through. To look at it from the ocean side, at the first blush of dawn, you would hardly know just from where I'm standing that anything had happened. But the enormity of this tragedy and damage can be revealed on the ocean side of the Champlain Tower South, as again, scores upon scores of fire rescue personnel from across South Florida here on Miami Beach this morning. After a mass casualty incident, people suddenly, around 1:30 or 2 this morning, a huge collapse, and I cannot begin to fathom the horror of that for people. And one witness who was in a nearby condo said he looked out and simply could not believe what he had just seen. We continue to gather information, most crucially trying to ascertain the casualty count here as it may exist, and we continue to wait for that. Information flows in quickly. In a mass casualty incident like this, we want to make sure we get those numbers and get them accurately as an entire community prays that the casualty list might be low. We simply do not have firm numbers yet. We do have early reports of at least one firefighter taken to a hospital to be treated, and of images from our station at NBC6 in Miami of what appeared to be a little boy being pulled by a fire rescue worker from the rubble, a scene being repeated too often this morning. We continue to gather information on the scene. For the moment, back to you.
Speaking, Michael, we have been seeing some aerial views, and let's bring this up big as we can now see for the first time that damage as they go back and forth from Collins Avenue to that Oceanside area that you've been mentioning. As they pan down now, we want to keep with this shot because we are seeing the extent of that damage and just how much of that building tore off. Now, a city spokesperson says it disputes any rule or law violations cited in the health department's warning letter. She also says the city is gathering information and is preparing to meet with the department to present the city's position.
After the break, we are live back in Surfside, where a multi-story building has partially caved. Stay with us. We've got team coverage of the latest developments.
The freezer's not.
6:15 the time this morning. Back now to breaking news on Today on 5. We continue.
Relieved of duty.
Call 888-8-SPARKY.
6:15 the time this morning. Back now to breaking news on Today on 5. We continue to monitor that building collapse, a high-rise collapse in Surfside.
12-story condo, part of it collapsed, and WPTV News Channel 5 anchor Michael Williams there gathering details. Joining him live right now. Michael, what have we learned so far as now we've been able to see that aerial view? It's quite the serious situation.
We stand here at 87th and Collins. The building behind me, right over my shoulder, Champlain Tower South Condo, 12 stories tall. It's been here since 1981, 135 units. From my vantage point, you see nothing. But as we take pictures that have been coming in since about 1:32 in this morning, you see the enormity of what happened here. A partial collapse as you at home look at the pictures that I think we're putting up now. They give you a sense of what fire rescue in this community and fire rescue units from across South Florida are dealing with. Dozens upon dozens of fire rescue personnel from Miami, Miami Beach, Hialeah, Fort Lauderdale, Broward, on and on and on here, working their way into the Oceanside part of the Champlain Tower South condo that collapsed this morning for reasons that we cannot begin to fathom at this point. We simply do not know. The entire focus as daybreak arrives here on Miami Beach, Surfside, is of trying to rescue people who may be trapped in the rubble, of trying to ascertain a casualty count, trying to do triage, trying to get people to help, trying to reunite people with their loved ones. I talked to a young woman about an hour ago who could not reach her parents, who've lived here for a while, she said, and she told me, I cannot, through tears, she said, get a hold of my parents. I simply don't know what has happened to them yet. We do know that there's a community staging center where they're trying to get people who had to be evacuated from the building, all of them, however many were in there. We do not have firm numbers yet. They've evacuated, we are told, those who could get out to a building about 4 or 5 blocks north of here. I'm at the media staging area at 87th and Collins here on Miami Beach as fire rescue personnel comb through this building. We've seen and I'm going to step aside a little bit, and again, if we can perhaps show not only this scene, but perhaps in a split screen or show the live pictures, you get the enormity of the scale of what has happened here at this 12-story building, a partial collapse. And again, for those of you just joining us, a building built in 1981, it is hard to conceive with what one presumes are the latest building and building inspections and codes, how something like this could happen. And that will be a months-long investigation. But for now, all that matters is the enormous rescue effort going on right now with, among others, Miami-Dade County Fire's famed urban search and rescue team. You've heard all of us mention them over the years. They are world famous for their work. They go across the globe to work disaster scenes like the one unfolding in this community this morning. Again, At about 1:32 this morning, a partial huge collapse on the ocean side of the Champlain Tower South condo on Miami Beach at 8777 Collins Avenue. The casualty list, we're trying to ascertain that. A little boy was being seen pulled from the rubble by a fire rescue worker. We're trying to understand how many people have gone to area hospitals, and again, only beginning to get a first sense of the enormity of what has happened here on this scene that has fire rescue units from across our community on scene now, trying to do their work in the most perilous of circumstances at this hour. We'll continue to update you as we learn more this morning. For now, back to you.
All right, thank you, Michael. Let's take a look outside. Our camera is showing a little bit more.
Well, a sticker shock for those of you planning your summer vacations coming up. The shortage that's causing airline tickets to soar.
And our crews on the scene tell us now at least one person is confirmed dead in this condo collapse in Miami, 12 stories. We are learning more about the search and rescue efforts right now as you take a live look from that scene. We'll be right back. Says it will give money to airports that keep the ones they have. $8 billion will be given to airports that keep 90% of the workers. That money will be spread out before they had the pandemic. The money will also help with airport construction projects.
All right, next at 6:30, let's take you back. This is some video of that Miami high-rise building. It came crumbling down part of the side there on the left-hand side overnight. Witnesses on the screen, the scene describing the horror. One person says the building is just pancaked. We're going to take you back there live with the very latest information.
2 rows, maybe more, of 12-story condos have collapsed here, folks. Michael Williams is on scene right now, has been gathering the details. Michael, you've been speaking with crews on the scene. Image. Producers, do we have that? I'm going to wait by the scene. We'll get to that later of what this condo used to look like versus what it looks like now. It appears at least 2 rows, maybe more, of 12-story condos have collapsed here, folks. Michael Williams is on scene right now, has been gathering the details. Michael, you've been speaking with crews on the scene. What are we learning now as we're now getting the daylight view of this tremendous damage?
The daylight view reveals what the harsh lights of fire rescue vehicles have cast their lights upon for the last 4 or 5 hours as you look at the live scene. An enormous collapse, the cause of which will be investigated for months, if not years to come. A building from 1981 that on the ocean side is partially collapsed, this 12-story building. On the street side, the Collins Avenue side here on famed Miami Beach and the famed Collins Avenue, you can discern no damage from where I stand on the street side, but it is the flip side of the building, the ocean side, that came crashing down about 1:30 or 2 this morning. The Champlain Towers South condo, 12 stories, roughly 135 units. We do not know how many people were living and inside the building at the time of this huge partial collapse this morning. That is still trying to be ascertained as fire rescue units, as you look at more footage of this partial collapse, if we can bring that up, as fire rescue units from around Miami, Miami Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Broward, all across multiple counties, scores upon scores of fire rescue units and the famed Miami-Dade Urban Search and Rescue Team on hand, scouring through carefully the rubble of this partial collapse, trying to find those who may have been hurt or sadly worse. We do not have a firm casualty count beyond the fact that Miami-Dade Fire has confirmed, at least early word, that there is at least 1 fatality. We also can go to footage of what NBC6 says is a little child who was pulled from the rubble by a fire rescue worker, as we bring you footage of that heart-wrenching scene in the pre-dawn hours this morning at 88th and Collins on Miami Beach after this partial building collapse. And a witness who lived in a nearby building described how tragically awestruck he was by what he saw in the immediate aftermath of this collapse.
I have never seen so many ambulances and police in my life all at once. It looked like something from like 9/11, literally. And so the back of that building, I was able to go to the back, and I have video footage and photos of the entire building collapse from the 14th floor. So there's a third of the entire building that you cannot see from the street, but it's completely gone in the back towards the beach side.
You stand here and you can scarcely, I got the call and I couldn't believe at first what I was hearing, because with modern construction, with modern building inspection, with modern codes, it is hard to fathom how something like this could happen. But the harsh, sad, tragic reality is that it has. The why and wherefores will have to come later, but they will come, because let's pull out, if we can come back to a live scene. It, of course, begs the question, if this could happen to this building, what does it say about what was clearly missed or not understood about construction, about the durability of the structure? All of that's going to have to poured over, because you look up and down.
Yeah, Michael,
this
if I could
huge
jump
part
in
of what
right
we
here.
call
I know there's a
Surfside,
delay,
the
but
north
Michael,
end of
we're
Miami
back here in
Beach
the
at
studio.
88th and Collins, and you're looking on at the enormous number of condos that dot this part of the beach alone. And so all of those questions, but they will have to wait for what is the priority now. Getting inside, trying to determine if there are other people who need to be pulled from the rubble. We already understand from Miami-Dade Fire Rescue that this partial collapse, a huge partial collapse of this 12-story condominium tower, Champlain Tower South Condo, has claimed at least one life. Another report from Miami local media said at least one firefighter had to be taken to the hospital to be treated. And you saw footage moments ago from our station here, NBC6, of a child being pulled from the rubble. But a firm casualty count, we do not yet know that. And fire rescue workers very gingerly are trying to work their way through the building with as much caution, but with as much urgency as possible as well, to try to get to those who may still be very desperately in need of their aid. We simply do not know how many people were in the building to begin with, how many may still be in there, what the ultimate casualty count will be. The community prays it will not be a huge one, but we simply don't have those answers for you. A community center about 4 blocks away, people from that building and some from the surrounding area who had to be evacuated have gone there. I talked with somebody this morning who was frantically trying to reach her parents who live in the building. Champlain Tower South Condo said, I simply
we can
do
see
not
that
know
view from,
what has happened to my parents.
You know, we are speaking with Michael Williams there from the scene. And if producers, we could bring his mic down, just because we're seeing such dramatic pictures right now. Michael isn't available to see because he's about a block away from the scene. This is an aerial view. You heard the helicopter above Michael Williams' head there on the scene. This is that live view of the partial building collapse, 12 stories on Collins Avenue, as we're seeing crews still in search and rescue mode moving there. You could see the community pool of this condo, and as they pull back, folks, you can just see, this is a live look right now at the extent of this damage. At least one person confirmed dead, but as you take a look at that, at how many rows of that condo collapsed from the top, it appears, on the 12th story on down. This is a very big search and rescue operation.
Yeah, and Mike, as we get a better look here of the damage, it is a gut punch. We should point out Miami Fire Rescue, they have a specially skilled, trained team. They are taught to really respond to situations like this, working in tight, confined spaces. And they train out everywhere and also offer training around the country. And so today you can certainly imagine they are being put to the test. We've seen them all morning going in through parts of the building that are still standing and working their way over to the oceanfront side. And again, that is right there, the images that we're getting in right now, Mike.
Yeah, Holony, I've been looking at a Google Maps picture, okay, as official as it can be, you know, that when they map out something and they show the street view. So there were at least 2 rows of, there we go. Okay, so this is what the building looked like prior to. You can see on the left-hand side there, this is the street view. This is what it would be on the ocean view. I don't know if we can switch that around, but at any rate, a much different story as we snap to this right now. So that's an aerial view right now, 12 stories. This building we're hearing was built in 1981, 135 units from Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. Our Michael Williams is on the scene. Producers, just give me idea where we're going. Are we going back to Michael right now because he has new information? We'll get to Michael in 1 second. We do want to get the weather locally here as you're taking a look. We'll get back to this breaking news, but right now our team of First Alert meteorologists has the forecast for you.
All right, good morning. Let's take a look outside West Palm Beach. It's a nice start to the day. In fact, just a little bit cooler compared to this time yesterday. West Palm Beach.
That condominium that just gave way, it collapsed earlier this morning. Right now, Mike, at the latest, we are hearing the death count stands at 1.
You could see some people wheeling some instruments, perhaps some folks away from that scene on Collins Avenue. Our Michael Williams has been gathering information as you're going to take that look right now from the opposite side, the west side of that condominium. Michael, what can you tell us?
I'm a block south of the scene of this partial collapse. How could something of this enormity happen? The huge question, but one for the moment dwarfed by the even larger, much larger, desperate need to get in there, as dozens of fire rescue personnel are efforting to do for the last 4 or 5 hours, to get into this building, to assess the number of casualties, to see how few or how many there may be, to rescue people who may be trapped in the partial collapse of this 12-story Champlain Towers South condominium at 8777 Collins Avenue on Miami Beach. From my live vantage point, about a block away on the west side, you see little. It's the ocean side, where at about 1:32 this morning, this huge, thunderous, partial collapse, as we show footage of that, of this condominium. And fire rescue teams and law enforcement personnel rushing here. We've already understood that at least one fatality has been confirmed. Also separately, that at least one firefighter had to be taken to a hospital to be treated for an unknown condition or injury, and that at least one child was seen being pulled from the rubble, and that so many people of loved ones in this 135-unit condominium, how full it was at the time of the collapse, we do not yet know. We do not have those numbers, but dozens of people and families and loved ones frantically trying to reach out to their loved ones right now. I talked to a young lady this morning who said, I'm trying to get a hold of my mom and dad. They live in the condominium, and I simply don't know how they are, what they're doing, what their status is. Heartbreaking to hear those words as tears filled her eyes, and as so many are living that horror right now. We're trying to understand and have a better sense of the scope of the human crisis going on here, but we simply don't have those numbers for you. As we come back out live and look on at the scene, this portion of Collins Avenue will be closed all day long, north and south of here, as rescue units and inspectors later pour in here to try and understand what the remaining stability of this structure is. And so many questions right now, but all of them centered for the moment around making sure they have thoroughly checked as carefully but as urgently as possible this 12-story condominium on Miami Beach at 87th, 88th and Collins that collapsed this morning, partially collapsed, and now the work that, among others, is being conducted by the world-famous Miami-Dade Urban Search and Rescue Team from their Fire Rescue Division. They're among the very best in the world, and they are being pressed into service right now. We will continue to update you as we know more, as we are staged here at the scene. We will expect a news conference of some sort a little bit later this morning. We'll bring you the very latest throughout the day, both on air and online. Back to you.
All right, Michael Williams there live at the scene. Former President Donald Trump will bring some extra fireworks to Florida's West Coast for the July 4th holiday.
Thanks for calling 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Do you make junk disappear?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
Now.
We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point.
5 till 7, and time for the 5 to know this morning. Of course, our big breaking story still live in Miami. One person confirmed dead after a condominium building collapsed earlier this morning. Let's get out to WPTV's Michael Williams. He is at the scene. Michael.
I stand on Collins Avenue, a block south of the disaster scene at 8777 Collins Avenue. I see the live view from the street side, but as we go to footage on the ocean side of the Champlain Towers South condo, a 12-story condominium building, a huge partial collapse in the pre-dawn hours around 1:30 or 2 this morning. The casualties, one confirmed dead, The frantic search goes on for others who may have been trapped in the rubble of this huge collapse that came out of nowhere, as witnesses nearby described it. A thunderous roar and then a huge partial building collapse. They scarcely could believe what they were seeing had transpired in front of them at this building that has 135 units. How many were occupied at the time? We do not know. We're still trying to ascertain the extent of what casualties may be here. As you look at footage of what had happened here this morning, what is ongoing now as scores upon scores of fire rescue teams from around Miami Beach, Miami, Miami-Dade, Broward, Fort Lauderdale have converged on this scene. We'll continue to bring you updates throughout the day on air and online as they work to ascertain the full extent of the human equation of this mass casualty incident. Now back to you.
All right, thank you.
Unfortunately, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern here. You can see some new images there, and this story just unfolding.
Partners in recovery.
Things change quickly. Stay with Fox 29 First Alert Weather.
Breaking at 7, at least one person is dead after a high-rise residential building partially collapsed in Miami overnight. Throughout the hour, we're going to be showing you live images of that ongoing response.
As you see there, we do have new video showing what the building looked like before it came down. Fox 29's Michael Williams joining us live now, not too far away.
I'm standing at 87th and Collins Avenue, just literally a half block south of the collapse scene at 8777 Collins, the Champlain Tower South condo. From the street side, you see nothing. From the vantage point of the chopper and beach side, you see the huge partial collapse that happened around 1:32 this morning. As a witness described it, I came out, they heard a roar, and they saw what their eyes told them was in front of them, but their minds could scarcely believe in the pre-dawn hours that a huge side of this building had come crashing down on the ocean side of the Champlain Tower South condo, a 135-unit condo. For the last going on 4.5, 5 hours, fire rescue teams from around the entire region, from Fort Lauderdale, from Miami, Miami Beach, of course, Miami, pouring in here, the world-famous urban search and rescue team from Miami-Dade Fire Rescue here, both gingerly but also urgently trying to get into the reaches of this building to ascertain the number of people who have been hurt. We have confirmation, or at least Miami-Dade Fire is confirming to us, one fatality. The circumstances around that, was it directly related to the collapse or indirectly? We do not know. We also understand at least one firefighter had to be taken to a hospital for treatment. One of our sister stations in Miami had pictures of a child being pulled from the rubble, but we do not know the extent of how many people were hurt or worse. We are waiting to find that out as the community holds its breath, hoping that for all the enormity of what we see, as you continue to look at the pictures of this huge partial collapse of this 40-year-old condominium built back in 1981, that perhaps hopefully the casualty count might be light. But again, I emphasize, we do not have confirmation on the number of people who may have been injured and or killed beyond the confirmation of that one fatality, as right now all the efforts on the rescue component here of what has happened in this condominium overnight. It's almost unfathomable in this day and age. You think a 40-year-old condominium along a famed part of Miami Beach, Collins Avenue, and to collapse in the way it did is going to, after the first component of this huge search effort gives way to the huge questions about why this happened. There are going to be months-long investigations, if not years-long, about how something like this could happen. But for now, all the effort on search and rescue will continue to bring you the very latest, both on air and online, as fire rescue crews, as dawn gave way this morning to the lights of the fire rescue vehicles that lit up the pre-dawn here. Fire rescue teams continuing to pour across this building, trying to find those who may still be in need of their life-saving efforts. For now, I'm Michael Williams reporting live. Back to you.
All right, looking at the weather right now.
Schumacher Subaru in West Palm and Delray.
The Fox 29 Morning News starts now. We've got you covered.
Right this second.
All right, Michael Williams there live on the scene from that building collapse there in the Miami-Dade County area. We'll have the very latest on that. Also this morning, could the federal eviction ban set to expire in a week be extended again? Let's return to the top of our show this morning, Chris.
Yeah, breaking right now, chaos and confusion down in Miami after a condominium complex with at least 100 units partially collapsed. We have live team coverage happening right now as we work to figure out more information.
All right, Michael Williams joining us now. Michael, we know that building not even 40 years old. A lot of code inspection questions. We're just hearing that some work may have been going on the roof. So we know these inspections will come into play, those questions. And again, one confirmed death reported so far.
That is correct. And yes, that is correct. As I join you live, less than a block away from the building, the Champlain Tower South condo, 135 units. I'm working multiple sources and information, so bear with me at home. The mayor has said that roof work, as you said, was going on. Again, I want to emphasize, we're not going to know for a long time precisely what caused the collapse of this building. All the efforts, of course, right now are on the human component here, and I'll get to that very quickly. But the mayor said roof work was going on and said, quote, you'd never expect that to be the issue. He went on to say this is a catastrophic failure of the building, as so very obviously came to light at about 1:32 this morning. That the Surfside mayor speaking. It was about 1:32 in the morning when the collapse happened. According to the information that we have, at least thus far, 10 people have been treated on the scene, 2 transported to the hospital, and the confirmation that 1 person has been a confirmed fatality. That is what we have thus far. The huge search effort goes on inside the collapsed part of this building, which is on the ocean side of the Champlain Tower South. Again, 135 unit building at 8777 Collins Avenue on Miami Beach, built in 1981. And I'm going to throw back to you for a moment. I'm going to try and catch the mayor as he comes by in just a moment. He's getting ready to do a hit with one of the national broadcasts, and let me see if I can get him to come by in just a moment. But for now, that's the information. All the focus is on trying to make sure they thoroughly have searched this building, a partial collapse, a huge partial collapse of this 12-story building on the oceanside face of the building, 1:30 or 2 in the morning. One witness said he scarcely could believe what he was seeing moments after the collapse, a witness who lived in a condo just adjacent, apparently, to where this collapse happened. That's it from the scene for this moment. Again, we expect a live news conference in a moment, and I'll try and bring you the Surfside mayor and the very latest from him in just a few moments as well. Back to you.
All right, Michael, we want to invite our viewers here. Keep it here. We'll have the latest breaking information, those updates, not only on air, but also you can read more at WFLX.com. Let's get to the forecast this morning. First Alert meteorologist James Whelan. Nice to see you, James.
Thanks a lot. Tax return, you have to have a substantial loss of income or work hours and use your best efforts to obtain government assistance, as well as use your best efforts to make partial payments. According to some housing advocates, more than 11 million Americans are behind on rent and could lose their housing when the moratorium finally ends. We're going to go back to breaking news down in Surfside, where a building partially collapsed in Miami.
You can see Michael Williams there busy behind the scenes. He actually just mentioned moments ago that he was going to be trying to catch up with the mayor. So, Michael, I can buy you some time. Not exactly sure if you can hear me, but what are the additional details that you've been able to learn?
Yes, I can. We are waiting for the Surfside mayor. We are still this morning, a community holds its breath trying to ascertain what the casualty count may be here. 1 confirmed dead, a massive search effort going on in the building behind me. Again, the Champlain Tower South condo over my shoulder, but the enormity of the collapse can be seen on the ocean side of the building. I'm here with Rodrigo Salem, who has 2 apartments that you own in the building, and you were renting them out.
No, I'm not. I wasn't renting. Okay. I wasn't lending.
You were lending them?
Yeah, to friends that came from South America to get the shot to get the COVID shot here.
And how many friends were in your 2 apartments that you lent them to?
In one apartment, there were 2 friends that they saved their life by minutes. Okay.
How so? What did they tell you?
Yeah, they were on the parking lot. They were on the garage. They took the elevator to the first floor. The elevator always stopped on the lobby. they felt a noise on the lobby, and they went out for the elevator. They heard first a little noise, then like an explosion, and they told me that that they don't see nothing because it was rumble and powder.
I'm gonna get you. I've got this one.
On that.
And then did you have other friends who, to your knowledge, might have been in the apartment?
I have another friends on the 03 line, apartment 803, that they are missing. Okay, 2 friends and one girl of 6 years old.
Oh my goodness! All of them had come up from South America.
Yeah.
All of them were here to get their COVID shots.
Yes.
And so 2 of them, by the grace of God, were not up in their apartment and were able to get out.
They you know, if you see the building is torn down like the demolition that you see in Las Vegas. Okay, the same, but with people inside. Okay, but the time it happened, all the people were sleeping there. It happened at 1:25 in the morning. All the people were sleeping there. That part of the building was full. You have to consider that about 60 or 70% of the building was torn down. Okay.
Rodrigo, I know the whole community holds its breath. I know you do for your friends who you were lending your apartments to. I thank you at this very troubling time to take a moment to speak to us here for our Fox 29 broadcasts and our sister station, of course, Wptv News Channel 5. And our prayers are certainly with you and with this family. It was a mother, father, and a child.
Father, and child.
Father, and child in the apartment, trying to ascertain what may have happened with them. 2 others are alive and well only because they had not gone up to their apartment. And we are now awaiting a news conference that should be getting underway with the mayor. I'm told
they don't have any new. They don't
have. Rodrigo?
They don't have any.
Rodrigo's lament. You just don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I came from the Surfside Community Center. They don't have any information. The only rumor that they have that 1 people was pronounced dead, but there's no more than that.
Rodrigo,
okay.
Our prayers are
down. Okay.
Rodrigo, I know the whole community holds its breath. I know you do for your friends who you were lending your apartments to. I thank you at this very troubling time to take a moment to speak to us here for our Fox 29 broadcasts and our sister station, of course, Wptv News Channel 5. And our prayers are certainly with you and with this family. It was a mother, father, and a child.
Father, and child.
Father, and child in the apartment, trying to ascertain what may have happened with them. 2 others are alive and well only because they had not gone up to their apartment. And we are now awaiting a news conference that should be getting underway with the mayor. I'm told
they don't have any new. They don't
have.
Rodrigo? They don't have any.
Rodrigo's lament. You just don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I came from the Surfside Community Center. They don't have any information. The only rumor that they have that 1 people was pronounced dead, but there's no more than that.
Rodrigo, our prayers are with.
Little chance. There's a little.
Rodrigo, our prayers are with you and.
Any information? The only rumor that they have that 1 people was pronounced dead, but there's no more than that.
Rodrigo, our prayers are with you and your friends for. In part of the collapsed building. Are with you and your friends for whom you lent the apartments.
Thank you. 1 people was pronounced dead, but there's no more than that.
Rodrigo, our prayers are with you and your friends.
A little chance because the building
came from Argentina so they could get their COVID-19 shots, he said. 2 of them downstairs did not go to the top floor, heard the rumble and left. Others, including a child, in part of the collapsed building.
There's a little chance. There's a little chance because the building is 13th floor, and they were on the middle. Okay.
We will pray for a miracle.
Okay. Thank you.
Really, at this point, we wait for the mayor. The enormity of the crisis takes its full human form when you hear the voices of those like Rodrigo Salem, who is holding on to hope that his friends may still be alive. I'm here with Cameron Eppinger right now. Cameron, go ahead and take the mic for a moment. I'm trying to get one other person here. And by the way, we're expecting, Cameron, stand by. Let me talk to you at the station. We're expecting the Surfside mayor. He's appearing before the microphones. If you all see that, let's take the Surfside mayor live. He's getting in front of the microphones. If you can talk to me, control room, you should see the mayor at the microphones.
Well, 05 and 04, they are 03, 01, and all the 07, 10.
Michael here. If somebody in control room can talk, because we've got a lot of breaking news. Are we back up live right now? Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello, control. Michael.
All right, Michael Williams there on the scene. So again, we are going to stay on top of this. We are expecting a news conference to happen any minute now, so we're trying to get staged for that. A lot of emergency responders there on the scene. You can see that pile of rubble. The term we've been used to describe this is pancake. That building just gave way. Partial collapse earlier this morning.
Does your vitamin C
And parents, they take the Palm Beach County School District to task as a superintendent lays out his plan for the fall. Let's get to our breaking news story this morning. One person dead, but the death toll could grow after a high-rise building partially caved in Miami-Dade County before 2 this morning. In a news conference moments ago, the mayor expressing his shock, especially since this building, this residential building, was only constructed in the 80s.
And we do have video showing what the building looked like before. Part of a row of balconies caved. Fox 29's Michael Williams now joining us live from the Surfside area, gathering the very latest. Michael, it has been a long morning, and it's going to be a much longer day.
It's going to be a much longer day, week, and months, and perhaps lifetimes for people. The casualty count, 1 confirmed dead, but there are concerns that as this very delicate and urgent search goes on at the Champlain Tower South condo, my side, the street side at 87th and Collins, you see nothing. But the ocean side, a huge partial collapse. And the concern is that as dozens of people, at least for the moment, remain unaccounted for, the death toll potentially and injury toll could go substantially higher. That not yet confirmed. 1 confirmed dead right now. As you look on at various images of the scene, I'll have an interview with somebody in just a moment, but I want to bring in my colleague, Cameron Eppinger, who's been working this story with me all morning long, including going down to a community center where some of the people who were in the unaffected part of the collapsed building, the area that did not collapse, let me say it more plainly, have been taken, and also others. What are you learning at this point?
Just to kind of set the scene for you, Mike, and when it comes to the community center, this is about a couple blocks away from where we're standing here, and this is where people who were at the Blue Green Hotel. This hotel is right next to the Champlain Towers, and I got a chance to speak with one of the guests. At the time of the collapse, he was actually at the pool. His name is Roberto. He was actually visiting here on vacation, and he tells me he heard at one point he saw the first floor of the roof collapse. Next thing you know, he said that he heard a loud horn, a loud siren, if you will, and then about 2 minutes later, the entire building on that side just simply collapsed. He says at one point, right before, while the sirens were blaring, he saw at least 3 people on the top floor, the 12th floor of the balcony of that condominium, and he was trying to get them to come down, but of course they couldn't hear him at the time. But he also says that 2 minutes after that the roof collapsed, he says the entire building came down, and so much so we have video. I'm going to send it to you, show you all a little bit later on. But he also also got video of him and his wife. They were trying to actually leave the pool area, and as they were trying to escape from the pool area, dust was flying everywhere. He actually got injured on his ankle while trying to get away from the scene and get to safety. But just an incredible situation that we're dealing with here in the Surfside community. Again, we just got an update from the mayor a few moments ago, and we were told that right now they're beginning the search and rescue part of the building that's collapsed. Now, the part that wasn't affected that you can see right behind me, they say they've already completed the search part in that situation, but right now they're conducting the search effort right now of the building that's collapsed.
And to that point, as the enormity of what happened physically to the building and as the potential enormity of what has happened in terms of potential casualties goes on, I talked to a Rolando Salem. He had lent his apartment to friends who'd come up from South America. They wanted to come here to get their COVID shots. Here in parts what he said to me moments ago. We are still this morning, a community holds its breath trying to ascertain what the casualty count may be here. One confirmed dead, a massive search effort going on in the building behind me. Again, the Champlain Tower South condo over my shoulder, but the enormity of the collapse can be seen on the ocean side of the building. I'm here with Rodrigo Salem, who has 2 apartments that you own in the building, and you were renting them out.
No, I'm not. I wasn't renting. Okay. I wasn't lending.
You were lending them?
Yeah, to friends that came from South America to get the shot to get the COVID shot here.
And how many friends were in your 2 apartments that you lent them to?
In one apartment, there were 2 friends that they saved their life by minutes. Okay.
How so? What did they tell you?
Yeah, they were on the parking lot. They were on the garage. They took the elevator to the first floor. The elevator always stopped on the lobby. They felt noise on the lobby, and they went out for the elevator. They heard first a little noise, then like an explosion, and they told me that that they don't see nothing because it was rumble and powder.
I'm gonna get you. I've got this one
on that.
And then did you have other friends who, to your knowledge, might have been in the apartment?
I have another friends on the 03 line, apartment 803, that they are missing. Okay. 2 friends and one girl of 6 years old.
Oh my goodness! All of them had come up from South America.
Yeah.
All of them were here to get their COVID shots.
Yes.
And so 2 of them, by the grace of God, were not up in their apartment and were able to get out.
They if you see the building is torn down like the demolition that you see in Las Vegas. Okay, the same, but with people inside. Okay, but the time it happened, all the people were sleeping there. It happened at 1:25 in the morning. All the people were sleeping there. That part of the building was full. You have to consider that about 60 or 70% of the building was torn down. Okay.
Rodrigo, I know the whole community holds its breath. I know you do for your friends who you were lending your apartments to. I thank you at this very troubling time to take a moment to speak to us here for our Fox 29 broadcasts and our sister station, of course, WPTV News Channel 5. And our prayers are certainly with you and with this family. It was a mother, father, and a child.
Father, and child.
Father, and child in the apartment, trying to ascertain what may have happened with them. 2 others are alive and well only because they had not gone up to their apartment. And we are now awaiting a news conference that should be getting underway with the mayor. I'm told
they don't have any new.
They don't have any. Rodrigo's lament. You just don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I came from the Surfside Community Center. They don't have any information. The only rumor that they have that 1 people was pronounced dead, but there's no more than that.
Rodrigo, our prayers are with you and your friends for whom you lent the apartments. We
Thank you.
know that for so many people, Rodrigo Salem, who lent his apartments to people who, as he said, were coming from where in South America?
Argentina.
They came from Argentina so they could get their COVID-19 shots, he said. 2 of them downstairs did not go to the top floor, heard the rumble and left. Others, including a child, in part of the collapsed building.
There's a little chance. There's a little chance because the building is 13th floor, and they were on the middle. Okay.
We will pray for a miracle.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Michael Williams, back live. You were listening to an interview I taped about 15 minutes ago, and you hear the understandable emotion and concern, and it's amplified by many voices this morning for those who had loved ones, parents, friends in the Champlain Tower South condo, 12, 13 stories tall, and 135 units at 8777 Collins Avenue. We were told roof work was going on, equipment was on top of the building. We have absolutely no idea this early on what could have triggered this partial collapse on the ocean side of the building, but the mayor talking moments ago saying one confirmed dead, but beyond that, an active search going on of the area that collapsed with grave concerns about the potential for the casualty toll to go perhaps significantly higher, because dozens of people, I've heard this firsthand from people looking for loved ones, and we're also hearing it from officials who said, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we have a lot of accounting to try to ascertain how many people in total were in the building and how many are unaccounted for at this hour. So that hangs heavy over the loved ones waiting for word, over this community, as we all wait to find out the full scope and extent of this tragedy that has befallen this part of Miami Beach, and most specifically so many loved ones this morning. We'll continue to bring you the very latest as that search and rescue effort goes on, and we pray there are still people to rescue. They have some of the best teams in the country, including one of the best in the world, Miami-Dade Urban Search and Rescue, helping lead the effort. It is a perilous, urgent search as they go through a building that they have to worry about more problems. You've had a collapse. What more might happen? And at the same time, urgently trying to find anybody who might be trapped. So we will continue to bring you the latest all day and night long, on air and online. For now, back to you.
Just really the excruciating holding pattern that so many people are in right now, that wait and see. Local Publix, the same one where a grandmother and her grandson were recently shot and killed.
We want to take you to Surfside right now for breaking news and chaos as well as confusion near Miami after a condominium complex with at least 100 units partially collapsed. We have live team coverage happening right now as we work to figure out more information.
Let's go ahead and start with Fox 29's. Are we going to actually, let's stick with these images here for just a second. You can see the severity, the enormity of the damage that we're talking about here. This building, not even 40 years old. We are hearing from one of the national networks that there was some work going on to one of the roofs. We're waiting for more details to come out about that. We are hearing that there is going to be an official press conference probably within the next hour or so. So hopefully we will learn more. Right now, though, as Chris mentioned, one confirmed dead. We are told that there are several injuries, and it looks like this is just going to continue to be a nimble situation, very fluid, as we continue to monitor this. Let's get to where are we going here?
Yeah, there's been
All right,
a lot.
Chris, let's go back to you real quickly. You've got some video here.
Yeah, a lot to uncover this morning. In the early hours, we did see some people rescued as we saw the search and rescue teams try and pick apart that rubble very gingerly. That young man obviously taken into care of paramedics on scene. We also heard 15 family units were able to walk out on their own. There's a lot of other people involved who have loved ones inside the building. We heard from our anchor, Michael Williams, talk to one of those people who had people staying in units. We also know that there's, as we get to the early morning hours here and throughout the rest of the morning, there's going to be people wanting to reunite with their families. There are reunification centers available. There's one close by to that Champlain Tower South. 9302 Collins Avenue is where you can go for that. And if there are any family members or those who are unaccounted for or those who are safe and they want to just check that in, you can go ahead and call 305-614-1819. Let's go ahead and hear some sound from the scene as it's breaking news.
The building shook, and then it looked.
As you were getting to the scene, ran into some girls. They were trying to call and connect with some family members, some loved ones that were in that building, they believe.
That's been the story all morning. A young lady who said she could not reach her parents. As one woman, Osi Oren, just said to me, or Osi Cohen just said to me, she and her husband lived on the third floor just down from the L-shaped part of the building that's obscured from our view live. But they heard this rumble, opened the door, and we're literally seeing the building as it had just collapsed. They had to get out of the building via a fire department cherry picker. I'm trying to get a gentleman over here. Let me, matter of fact, I'm live now. I want to get Ophi Osen-Cohen here to speak because it speaks so broadly to what happened. First of all, we are glad you and your husband were all right. You both were living on the 3rd floor of the Champlain Office Tower South. Describe what you heard. It was about 1:30 in the morning. What heard and what you did?
We heard an unusual sound. It was sort of like thunder, but not quite like thunder. And it shook me out of bed, and we looked out the window and thought, is it raining? And it was not raining. There was a plume of smoke coming up. It really wasn't smoke. I know that now, but I didn't know that at the time. And a police officer came very shortly thereafter, and I heard my neighbor ask, what's going on? He was running around with a flashlight. And he said, we don't know yet. And he said, should we evacuate? And he said, stay put where you are. And I said to my husband, I think we're going to need to leave. Something's happening. It's weird. And we gathered, initial things, your wallet, your phone, your charger, and I opened the door to my apartment, and all I saw was debris. And I was in shock because I had no anticipation that would be the case.
You lived you've described it to me as an L-shaped building, and you lived just this side of the L.
Yes, exactly, facing the street, right at the L there.
And all you saw was rubble.
Debris and rubble, and it was impassable. And all I could think about was the people who live on the other side, and I'm thinking, how are they going to get out? I didn't know the building had collapsed.
And you have friends in that side of the building?
Yes, we do, and we have not heard from them, unfortunately, and I just pray that they're okay.
Our prayers are with you and
it's an elderly couple who has some disabilities, so he's not very mobile. Yeah. I just hope they're okay. Please let us know if anyone knows. And so we went the other direction and went down the stairwell. There were about 10 people or so in the stairwell, and we all went to the lobby level, tried to get out at the pool deck, and unfortunately the door wouldn't open. A few people tried, and it didn't open, so we went down one more level to go to the garage, and it was already full of water. We didn't know where the water was coming from, how high it was going to be. We had no idea what was
going on. And is power out in the building?
Power was definitely out. It was out immediately. Yeah, immediately.
All over the building.
All, as far as I know,
sure,
yes. I grabbed the flashlight. We were in the stairwell with flashlights, and the phones have flashlights, and there were elderly people there, and there were 2 of them that I said, just come with me, follow us. They did. I don't know where the other people went, where they went or how they ended up, but they went with us, and we went to our balcony. We let first responders know we can't get out. The building is impassable where we are, and you know, help us get out of the building. And they said, we got you, and God bless them, they are amazing human beings. They run in when everybody's running out. We saw that firsthand, and they sent up a cherry picker in their fire truck, and the 4 of us got on there, and we were probably the first people to get out of the building. There were very few people in the street at that point.
It is so often said, but for the grace of God, there go I. You were literally feet away from the collapse.
Yes.
The building, we know there was roof work going on. We have no idea what the cause of this collapse is. As you stand here now, like so many people, you have friends there. The community waits with bated, fearful breath. We can only wait right now to know the enormity of this.
Correct. I just feel so blessed that I can be standing here and telling you what happened, because it could have been me in that rubble.
And yet I know your heart is so heavy as you wait to find out what happened to friends who lived in the affected, collapsed section of the building.
100%, 100%. You know, you just never know where life is going to take you, and you have to live each moment to the fullest. And my heart goes out to those families who are still waiting for news.
Well, our heart goes out to you as well. We are so thankful that you and your husband are all right. You were courageous to help people get out of the building. You aptly summed up fire rescue's heroic role, and all of us will wait now to find out what happens next. I know it's a morning beyond description. We thank you for taking a moment to speak to us.
Thank you very much for what you do. Thank you, guys.
Literally get chill bumps listening to that interview. She and a husband. Power goes out, you hear a rumble, you open your door, and the building next to you has collapsed, the portion of the building, and but for the distance of 10 or 20 yards, you're in the collapsed portion of the building. We're hearing such stories all morning long. One confirmed fatality. There are concerns about where that casualty list will go as this very active search and rescue continues, as this community with a heavy heart looks on at 8777 Collins Avenue, partial building collapse. And what will the rest of the day bring in terms of what fire rescue finds and what this community learns? We'll be here on air and online. I'm Michael Williams, back to you.
Big story this morning. We'll continue to stick with that right now.
a new lifeline.
Plus, some rowdy passengers in the skies are learning their lessons the hard way, the hefty fines they could pay. At least one person dead as we take a look in South Florida and Miami after a partial building collapse. Coming up, our live team coverage continues as witnesses describe the horrific scene.
Transmart USA's 4th of July.
Upper 70s for lows, a lot of moisture, a lot of humidity, so we hang on to high rain chances.
All right, don't go far. We will have one more check of your forecast coming up.
And let's take a live look before the break at the breaking news out of Miami. That partial building collapse coming up at 9. Right after our show, the mayor will be holding another press conference.
Minor got Letitia 600.
South Florida weekend.
All right, one final look. We leave you from that scene, Surfside, Florida.
Prepare yourself this hurricane season in 2.9 steps. Download.
We'll take you on another mystery trip.
All next week on Hoda.
Breaking news from WPTV News Channel 5.
It looked like something from like 9/11, literally.
An urgent search and rescue underway in Miami right now after a residential building collapsed early this morning. And according to authorities, 55 units in the building crumbled into a pile of rubble, at least one person dead. This is the big story this morning. It happened around 1:30 at the Champlain Tower South condominium near 88th Street and Collins Avenue in Surfside. We've had crews on the ground since the beginning. We have WPTV News anchor Michael Williams. He's been live on the scene, one of the first reporters from our area there. He joins us from the field to begin our coverage. Michael, what can you tell us?
This type of thing doesn't happen here. Those were the stunned words of the Surfside mayor and others at the news that at 1:30 this morning, the building, you see the one in the foreground and the one just behind it, the Champlain South Tower, 135 units. And 1:30 in the morning, a thunderous roar awoke many residents. Many others may not have had a chance to escape. We do not know a casualty toll here between those missing and those who may have met a worse fate here. We simply do not know that. One person confirmed dead after a partial collapse on the ocean side of this building. Reasons unknown. It may be a long time before we have any definitive cause for why this 40-year-old condominium building on the ocean side, nearly a third of its units, 55 of them, suddenly gone. And in the overnight hours, people who were not caught up in the falling rubble scrambled to get out. We talked and listened into a news conference a short while ago to the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Chief. Here in part is what he had to say.
The northeast corridor of the apartment had collapsed, approximately 55 apartment units. Our units began search and rescue efforts. They pulled 35 occupants that were trapped inside the building. In addition to those 35, 10 were assessed and treated. 2 were transported to various hospitals. 35 were pulled out from the structure and part of the collapse, but not from the rubble, and 2 were pulled from the rubble.
Back live now, and we had a chance, I had a chance, it was a harrowing discussion. I had chills talking to one of the people in the complex, Ophie Osen-Cohen. She and her husband near where the disaster occurred. They were sound asleep. Imagine 1:30 in the morning, suddenly whatever power there was goes out. They hear a roar, and she describes what happened next. Listen in.
And I looked at my husband and I said, I think we need to gather a few things and think about leaving soon. And we did. And that's when I opened the door and saw the hallway was full of debris. It was impassable. And we went the other way. It's an L-shaped building. We're at the very corner. So we went down the stairwell, and there were other people in the stairwell. We went down to the lobby level, which is where the pool deck is, to get out.
Two elderly people, she said, come with me, I'll help you get out. They get back to their apartment. Again, no power in the building. They're using flashlights. And fire rescue units come literally to the rescue, pulling them out in one of those giant cherry picker type devices that you see so often, going up to their window and bringing them to safety, rushing in to help those trying to get away from the horror of what happened. And literally, as this woman said, she waits now wondering what happened to friends she had in the part of the building that has collapsed. And also at the same time, while she struggles with those emotions, as so many others are, giving thanks that she was just literal feet away from the collapse zone. We now come into more reporting about what people were saying who could not literally believe their eyes. And that's an overused statement, but Camrell Eppinger here, you talked to people who were nearby and witnessed the immediate aftermath of all that went on at about 1:30 this morning.
Yeah, Mike, that's correct. I actually spoke with the guests who were staying at the Blue Green Resort. This is a hotel that's actually right next door to the Champlain Towers, the building that collapsed. And I spoke with a gentleman by the name of Roberto Castellero. He was visiting here from Tampa on vacation. And during the time right before the collapse, he and his wife were actually relaxing on the pool. And here's what he described. He says that all of a sudden, while they were at the pool with him and his wife, they heard a loud noise. And after that, they saw the first floor of the ceiling partially collapse. And then at that particular point, his wife told him, hey, we have to get out of here. We have to get out of here. That building's going to collapse. And Roberto tells me that he told his wife, I don't see that thing coming down. I don't see that thing coming down. So after the first floor of the ceiling collapsed, they actually went back to the chairs and laid down. And then 2 minutes later, that's when he says the entire building came down. And he says right before that, he says right before after that first floor of the ceiling came down, there was a loud siren. And they actually saw about 3 people who were on the balcony. And take a listen to what he had to say. And here's his account.
It was a lot of noise. Then my wife told me, oh, we have to leave here. Look, that building is going to go down. I said, how are you crazy? It's not going to go down. And some people start on the balcony, they start looking down. And my wife said, oh, you need to get out, but they cannot hear you. So I said, no, nothing going to happen. So we went back to the seat at the pool, and the building went down.
And Roberto says right after that building came down, that's when he and his wife got up and ran and tried to escape to safety. They said they hid immediately behind the wall, trying to get away from all the rubble and debris and the dust that was in the area. And doing so and trying to escape, he actually suffered some minor scrapes and bruises, right? We have to get out of here. That building's going to collapse. And Roberto tells me that he told his wife, I don't see that thing coming down. I don't see that thing coming down. So after the first floor of the ceiling collapsed, they actually went back to the chairs and laid down. And then 2 minutes later, that's when he says the entire building came down. And he says right before that, he says right before after that first floor of the ceiling came down, there was a loud siren. And they actually saw about 3 people who were on the balcony. And take a listen to what he had to say. And here's his account.
It was a lot of noise. Then my wife told me, oh, we have to leave here. Look, that building is going to go down. I said, how are you crazy? It's not going to go down. And some people start on the balcony, they start looking down. And my wife said, oh, you need to get out, but they cannot hear you. So I said, no, nothing going to happen. So we went back to the seat at the pool, and the building went down.
And Roberto says right after that building came down, that's when he and his wife got up and ran and tried to escape to safety. They said they hid immediately behind the wall, trying to get away from all the rubble and debris and the dust that was in the area. And doing so and trying to escape, he actually suffered some minor scrapes and bruises right to his leg. But all in all, they're okay. Then afterwards, when he got situated, he actually went upstairs to get his daughter and son from the hotel. And then that's when they were eventually moved over to the community center, which is about a couple of blocks here from this media staging area where I am, and that's where they remain at this hour.
Camrell, thank you very much. Camrell's been on scene with me since the outset here. Our photographer, Bob Leake, all of us arriving around 4 o'clock, 4:15, as a massive response here. Many dozens of fire rescue units from across Miami-Dade County and on into Broward County responding to the scene, as well as the elite urban search and rescue team from Miami-Dade Fire. They've traveled the world and to work in situations like this. Right now, we know that 10 people had been taken away and treated. You heard the fire district chief say 35 people had been pulled out, 2 of those from the rubble. We know that 1 death has been confirmed, but the question that looms over all of this right now, how many people at this hour are still missing and unaccounted for? And I talked to one law enforcement officer on background, and he said, Mike, I'm not going to hazard a guess. We've got so much work to do in there. We simply can't know. We don't know how many of the units were fully occupied at the time. All we can tell you is about 55 of the units were in the collapse zone. How many people were in them? They do not want to hazard an official guess, but so many people at this hour waiting to hear from their loved ones, waiting to find out about their fate. One man I talked to had lent his apartments to 2 people from South America and a child who'd come here. They were going to get their COVID-19 shots. They were in the collapse zone. Lenny Supal continues our coverage now. She's been at a reunification center where people are trying to find their loved ones, trying to get word about their fate. Lenny?
Good morning, Michael. Yes, waiting with a lot of worry here at the surface. Worry and waiting, really the main theme out here today. We're also learning that buses may come out here to transport tourists to new locations. This area has been established by the Red Cross as well as Miami-Dade County. So, of course, we'll continue to stay out here, keep you updated every step of the way. Michael?
Lenny, thank you again. You're looking at the Champlain South Tower, the second building in my sight line. You have the big one in the foreground, the Champlain Tower right behind it, a 12-story condominium built in 1981. 135 units, 55 of them collapse without warning this morning. The search for survivors goes on. The search to understand the entire human scope of this tragedy goes on. And we want to now go to Stephanie Susskind, who is assessing reaction, including that from Tallahassee. Stephanie?
Michael, Governor Ron DeSantis says he are still working to learn how many people could be missing right now. The governor also says that the Florida Director of Emergency Management and Department of Transportation also on the scene this morning. He says he's spoken to the local leaders in the area and the state is offering any help it can. Again, the governor is headed to the area today. Michael, back to you.
Stephanie, thank you. The governor's somber tone summing up the mood of so many here, bracing for the potential, if not the outright reality, that we will have to gird ourselves for more bad news. So many loved ones here desperately trying to find out about the fate of their loved ones in those 55 apartments that were part of the collapse. Again, we do not know how many of those were occupied or fully occupied. The search, the urgent search, but also the very careful search is going on right now because we don't know what the remaining stability of this building is. We can tell you there was work going on the roof of the building, but we are a long way from knowing what are the chain of events that ultimately led to the collapse of a huge portion of the 40-year-old building you see over my left shoulder, the Champlain Tower South at 8777 Collins Avenue here in Surfside, the north reaches of Miami Beach. We will be out here on air and online. We will bring you the very latest. We'll have more coverage during this broadcast. For now, reporting live, I'm Michael Williams. Back to you.
All right, still about 9 hours of searching going on, and the gut punch here is still no concrete numbers on how many people were in that apartment tower, how many people still missing and unaccounted for. Michael Williams at the scene for us. We'll check back in.
Meanwhile, the White House says it's noon. Watch WPTV.
Breaking news from WPTV News Channel 5.
An urgent search and rescue underway in Miami right now after a residential building collapsed early this morning.
According to authorities, 55 units in the building crumbled into a pile of rubble. At least one person is dead.
It happened around 1:30 at the Champlain Towers South condominium near 88th Street and Collins Avenue. That is in Surfside. A lot of questions, very little answers to go on right now. How did a part of a residential complex built in the early 80s plummet to the ground?
ABC News reports there was some recent roof work going on at Champlain Towers South. WPTV News Channel 5 anchor Michael Williams leading off our coverage. Michael.
One woman said to me, "I'm so grateful and lucky to be alive." Another said, "I still can't reach my parents. I don't know what's happened to them." Two reminders of the emotional anguish that frames this story this day. The building behind me, you see the big condo in the foreground. The second one back is the the condominium tower, Champlain South condominium tower, where on the ocean side of that building, the collapse happened at 1:30 this morning without warning. You mentioned roof work had been going on. It'll be a while before we know what are the different factors that led to this collapse. The roof work that was going on there may have had nothing to do with it. We simply don't know. There will be massive inspections here right now. What will be the ultimate casualty toll? We can't yet know. There's still a very active search and hopefully rescue effort. But some 55 apartments of the 135, as you look at footage of the collapse zone, some 55 of those apartments collapsed, suddenly rubble. At 1:30 in the morning. Those who were in nearby apartments said they heard a loud sound, awoke, went to their doors, and saw nothing there. Their neighbors' apartments had simply disappeared into a pile of debris. A short while ago, a few hours ago, I should say, and we're expecting news conferences throughout the day, we talked to the Miami-Dade Fire District Chief. Here in parts what he had to say.
Go out to the balcony. There were two elderly people in that group. We did not know them, but I said, come with us. You need to come with us. They did, and we went to our balcony. Fire rescue was all over the place. God bless them. They are amazing heroes, first responders. We know we say that all the time, but it is true. They run in when we're all trying to get out. And
they lifted you out of the building.
They did lift us out of the building. Via one of those cherry picker fire trucks, and the four of us got in it and they took us down. We were probably the first people they got out of the building.
That was Ofi Cohen. She and her husband were in the building. The fire chief, we had his sound earlier, had talked about how they have plucked some 35 people from the building, including 2 from the rubble. Right now, the death toll stands officially at 1. Some 10 people taken to the hospitals for treatment, a firefighter among those being treated. But what will the ultimate casualty count be? We don't know. But you heard from Miss Cohen just moments ago. She and her husband were just literally feet away from the collapse. She heard a rumble. The power went out. It's 1:30 in the morning. They open their door and see oblivion literally just yards away. They tried to get downstairs, couldn't get out, ran into 2 elderly people in need of help. They went back upstairs to her apartment balcony where fire rescue, where those heroic first responders, as they so often do, rushed in, not worried about danger to themselves, to get people out of the unaffected parts of the building and to begin the long, tough search and rescue operation that's going to go on for a long time. We'll hear more from the fire chief a little bit later. We'll hear more from those who were in the parts of the building where they were lucky to get out alive. We'll have more on that as well. For now, I want to bring in my colleague Camrell Eppinger, who's been with me in the pre-dawn hours, along with our photographer Bob Leake. You've been talking to people who were nearby and witnessed this happen literally before their very eyes.
Yeah, Mike, that's correct. I actually got a chance to speak with a gentleman. He didn't want to give us his name. He decided to remain anonymous, but this was a guest who was actually staying at a hotel. It's called the Blue Green Resort, which is right next door to the Champlain Towers. I want to go ahead and show you some video of the community center here in Surfside, and this is where many of the guests were staying in the nearby hotels. This is where they were evacuated after this incident happened. And again, I'll go back to the gentleman. He says that around 1:30 this morning, he heard a loud explosion, and then all of a sudden, the alarm started going off in his building, again, which is right next door. And then at that moment, he jumped up, grabbed his kids, and rushed out the door. Take a listen.
The earthquake / bomb / tornado, like literally I jumped up, went straight out, and just looked out the window. It's just broken glass, everything, where stuff was flying. Just like a big cloud of smoke or dust, but I thought it was sand. I was like, oh, we're in the middle of the tornado still. And all of a sudden the alarm started going off like crazy. I just ran and grabbed my kids real quick, just picked them up, pulled them out of bed, and took off outside.
And that gentleman you heard from me, he also tells me that he was actually visiting here on vacation from Georgia, and he was set to leave tomorrow. But he tells me that the hotel is telling him that it will be a few days before they'll be able to grab their things and get back on the road. Michael.
Camrell, thank you. And we want to now go to Lenny Sapal. She went to a reunification center set up nearby where loved ones have been going, trying to get word about those who have not been able to check in, who are missing and unaccounted for. And Lenny brings us that part of this ongoing story. Lenny?
Good morning, Michael. Very emotional here at the hospital, but again, very tense situation. Red Cross here, people showing support, dropping off water. There were also tourists next door in a building that was also evacuated. We're told there will be buses coming through to take those tourists to new locations. We'll have more throughout the day. Michael?
Lenny, thank you for your report. Governor Ron DeSantis, we're told, will be on site within a half hour to 45 minutes. I'm told the lieutenant governor's already been here across this sprawling investigative accident response scene that is playing out on Surfside, the north tier of Miami Beach, for those of you unfamiliar. But the governor, as I said, will be here shortly, although he's already spoken about today's tragic condominium collapse. And Stephanie Susskind continues our coverage with that part of the story. Stephanie?
So we are expecting to hear. And the governor says the Florida Department of Emergency Management, as well as the Florida Department of Transportation, also on the scene there in Surfside. Again, we are expecting to hear from him very soon. And as soon as we do, of course, we'll bring that to you live. Michael, back to you.
Stephanie, thank you for your report. So again, to summarize the building, the second one down, you see the giant condo in front, and then the second one is the one where tragedy struck without warning at about 1:30 this morning. The Champlain South condominium tower, suddenly a huge rumble, and 55 apartments disappeared just that quickly into a pile of rubble. How many people were in those apartments? Rescuers, officials from across this county trying to figure that out right now, and most of all, loved ones desperate for word. Was my loved one in one of those apartments? If so, why can't I reach them? Where are they? What is their condition? One confirmed death, 10 people taken to hospitals, a number of people pulled from the building, but the casualty count, that full story has yet to be told. And it is one that this whole community braces for, hoping for a miracle, hoping that it will be a low count of those who remain missing, who were hurt or who were killed, but we simply do not have firm numbers now as the search and rescue effort goes on right now. And then all the questions that will unfold in the days, weeks, and months ahead about how something like this could happen in a place where the Surfside mayor said, you just don't expect it to happen, a condominium collapse in a place like America. And yet it did. And now the community braces for what's next. We'll have continuing coverage on air and online throughout the day and night, and we'll be here live when the governor does arrive just after the noon hour. For now, back to you.
All right, Michael, we've seen those images over and over again, and no matter how many times you see them, it is just unbelievable. You're talking about an entire wing that has been wiped out. All right, Michael Williams at the scene. We'll check back in when we return on News Channel 5.
We just want to find her and hug her and hear her voice.
The word, hoping they'll be reunited with their missing family and friends.
We do have a team coverage this morning from developments overnight to the latest on the search, and of course the emotional toll tugging at heartstrings all across our area. Lots of manpower, lots of heavy-duty equipment being used to make sure no stone is left unturned following that building collapse in Surfside.
And from here on out, search teams will rotate in 12-hour shifts. We do have new video of them sorting through that debris, a process that officials say will be slow-moving and methodical.
Let's start off with Fox 29's Mike Trim, who is near that building. Mike, we've heard in the last couple of minutes, and I know you've mentioned it, there's actually smoke coming from that scene.
Yesterday, I met a rabbi in the area.
Yeah, that's right. I just saw several police vehicles going through a shift change that you mentioned, Chris and Holony. Let me show you what you're talking about, Holony. And we kind of just saw over the past half hour since the sun's come up, you could see the smoke right through those trees. The second building is the one that collapsed yesterday in the middle of the night. 12 stories flattened. Right now, unaccounted for, 99 people. We are searching for answers this morning for those families and waiting for the news conference that starts in less than an hour from public officials. That's going to happen feet away from me over here, this Miami-Dade police tent. Now, we are searching for those answers, but we're also hearing overnight from the mayor of Surfside. Listen to what he said about the possibility of finding any survivors here and his hope.
I'm hopeful, but
reality is, when we look at the rubble across the street, you know, it's possible that there may not be any survivors or many, but I remain hopeful. We have to stay hopeful at this point.
7:30, got it. Thank you.
So there is that center set up for the reunification with families, or just some sort of news accounting for those 99 people. Again, one confirmed dead here. That was the latest word yesterday. We are waiting for those answers. Again, coming up in less than an hour from that news conference, this building collapse here in Surfside. That's where we are live now for Fox 29. We're going to go to Cam Eppinger right now because he is talking to those families. Now the sun's up, Cam, a new day. Is there new hope there?
Yes, Mike, that is correct. Yes, hope is here. 1819. We're live this morning in Surfside. I'm Cam Eppinger, Fox 29 News. We've got you covered. Mike, back to you.
Yeah, back here at the scene, helicopters in the air. We hope to share with you some of those aerial views. Again, just wanted to show you that smoke that we're talking about here and the teams that are going through, some going through a shift change right now as they have been working through the night. We are expecting a little more answers, hopefully, for this building built in 1981. How did this happen? How did it collapse? A lot of unanswered questions here in Surfside. That's where we're live from. Let's go back to you in the studio now.
Chicago.
Breaking news from Fox 29.
A lot of action here across the street from the Surfside condominium that collapsed just yesterday. I'm Mike Trim here live at the scene for Fox 29. I'll have the latest update.
The horror. I mean,
Surfside community. Rescue efforts now on day 2 in that area. Again, just one to watch here, this story, and we do have team coverage all morning long.
And before we check in with Fox 29's Mike Trim, we have new video this morning of Miami-Dade rescuers working to find those still missing. You see they're combing through the rubble, skillfully trained search dogs looking for the nearly 100 people who are still unaccounted for.
All right, let's go back out live to Mike Trim. He is near that collapse zone. And Mike, you at one point saw smoke in that area, perhaps coming from the building, from that rubble. What is the latest?
Yeah, I'm going to show you that in just a second. About 30 minutes out from an official news conference from public officials to try to give us an update on what happened overnight into this morning. So far, the word's still the same as of this minute right now. 1 person dead, 99 unaccounted for. But let me step out of the way and show you what we're talking about here. As you can see, the smoke kind of through those trees. And you can, I'm sorry, there was some activity behind me as they're trying to get some sort of water to that facility over there to try to help that mobile command put out those fires that continue to pop up, things that are popping up overnight here at this condominium. A lot of activity here, shift changes, but right now we can tell you that the 99 people unaccounted for, there is still some hope. I want you to hear from public officials on what they said overnight. And producers, if we have that interview clip, if we could play that.
I can assure you that these fire rescue personnel, the best in the world, the ones that are called upon to come out in crises everywhere, are working as hard as could possibly be. They are so motivated.
All right, as we're back out here live, what you see there, the EMS captain for that shift coming into or out of his shift. So a lot of activity here. And as we kind of pan to the right here, I just want to show you the media activity. And under that Miami-Dade police tent is where we're going to have that 8 o'clock news conference. You will see it live here on Fox 29. But the biggest question that's unanswered right now is how this could have happened. That answer not clear yet, but we are searching for that along with several others. For now, though, I'm Mike Trim, live here in Surfside for Fox 29.
We're live this morning in Surfside. I'm Cam Eppinger, WPTV News Channel 5.
Hey, Mike Trim, we need you on set right now.
Camera Eppinger there for us covering the very latest, and we're going to get back to the LGBTQ community. So it should be a good time. Coming up in the next hour, again, anytime now, we are expecting officials to update us from Miami-Dade. The latest on that search and Surfside. We do know smoke seen coming periodically from that building. So hopefully we'll get some more answers, some more information on that.
This is WPTV News Channel 5 and Fox 29 News.
Nearly 100 still accounted for in that deadly condo collapse in the Miami area. Ahead, new developments, a news conference expected at any time.
Plus, sleepless in Surfside families, friends, and more cling to hope for a better ending today. Fox 29 monitoring that from the Reunification Center.
So it is the top of our 8 o'clock hour. We want to get back to that team coverage of Thursday's deadly building collapse in the Miami coastal community. Again, any moment here, we are expecting that news conference.
And Fox 29's Mike Trim there in Surfside covering the latest on search and rescue. We also have Cameron Eppinger at the Reunification Center where families are still waiting for any word on their loved ones.
Let's begin with Mike. Mike, any more smoke sightings?
Yeah, well, I'll get to that in a minute, Holly. I wanted to show you right over here. This is where that news conference is expected to start momentarily. We are expected to possibly get some answers. As we pan back over here and have the condominium in the background we're talking about here, that second building right there, hopefully getting answers as to how many of the 99 that were unaccounted for can now be counted for alive, or possibly news that more than one has been confirmed dead. We don't know those answers yet. We're waiting for those answers, as many families are waiting for those answers right now, as these crews have been working through the night with their heavy equipment. I do believe we have some video of that as they used everything from sonar equipment to canines to heavy machinery trying to move through this rubble. And as a matter of fact, as Holly mentioned, you can kind of see behind me, there is a haze of smoke that's been here over the past hour. That they have been trying to put out the flames since yesterday a fire started. And keeping out those hot spots, they have kept a steady stream of water on that rubble that they've been searching through all night. I'm looking to my left to see when that news conference starts so we can bring that the latest to you live here on Fox 29. But this building that was built in 1981, going through a 40-year recertification here with Miami-Dade County, trying to see if that had any play in this, along with there was roof work being done. But what we do know now is almost half of that building was just flattened, and you can kind of see that through the video that we've been seeing over the past 24 hours. So again, momentarily, a news conference with public officials expected to start here. We will carry that live here on Fox 29. But as you mentioned, Chris and Holly, there are many families still waiting for answers at this reunification center. So Camrell, you've been there. What is the latest? Are more families arriving this morning looking for those answers?
In Surfside, I'm Cameron Eppinger, Fox 29 News. We've got you covered. Mike.
That's right, back here across the street from the condo that we're talking about, and just another look at it, and the smoke, you can kind of see the haze through the trees there. We're waiting that news conference. Word now that it has moved to 8:15, so we're looking at about 11 minutes from now. An update on that building, that so many questions are still unanswered this morning. How could something like this have happened right next to the beach in this condo? 12 stories flattened. Right now, as it stands, we're waiting to hear an update. 99 people unaccounted for. The death toll still at 1. That was yesterday, but we are expected to hear much more today because these crews have been working tirelessly through the night, like I said, with the heavy equipment. So we are standing by here waiting for those answers, and we will carry this live here on WPTV and Fox 29 as we are live right now here from Surfside. I'm Mike Trim. Back to you in the studio.
All right. Well, as we have heard officials say in that area, tough days ahead. So, Mike, we're going to let you go. We know we're expecting that news conference here shortly. We will check back in with you. Mike, some other angles. We want to go out to Cameron Eppinger. He is there. Mike Trim, actually, let's start with him. He is there. Mike, I know you were a part of this news conference, and you've also been gathering some other details.
Yeah, we really got to, I mean, let's recap the headlines here. 4 people now confirmed dead, 159 people unaccounted for. Some specific questions with that have been answered by fire rescue now. Are all the unaccounted for believed to be in that rubble? Well, they did say that the focus is now solely on that rubble that you've been seeing the devastating photos of here in Surfside of the condo after the 12-story collapse. Also, 130 firefighters working around the clock in shifts trying to rescue people. They did, within those efforts, within the last overnight hours, encounter 3 more deceased victims, so that brings the total to 4. They're using so many different types of mechanisms to try to find people, including some kind of sonar, and along with listening for sounds. There had been rumors that sounds have been heard. They clarified that Miami-Dade Fire Rescue really did. Every time they hear a sound, a tapping, it might not necessarily be a person, but they are searching that sound as if it were a person trapped in the rubble. The officials answered much of the same way when asked the direct question, is there something specific that gives you reason to think that there are still people alive in that rubble? And they all said, we're holding out hope, and that's why we are still searching for any victims. But now, you know, we go from overnight 99 people unaccounted for to 159. We're getting more information, and of course Camrell is there at the reunification center, hoping to learn more for those families. For now, we will gather more information here in Surfside. I'm Mike Trim for WPTV News Channel 5 and Fox 29. Back to you.
Again, the latest there, 4 people dead.
Breaking news from Fox 29.
Developments within the last couple of minutes. Officials now confirming that 4 people are dead, 159 now missing in the condo collapse in Surfside. Ahead, the challenges that those rescue teams are going up against nearly 24 hours later.
And I'm hoping we find them. I'm praying we find them.
Lots of prayers. Each of the missing have family and friends who love them. We're live at the reunification center where people are holding out hope.
All right, we want to continue now our team coverage this morning. Camera Eppinger, Mike Trim, they're standing by. Cam Eppinger at the reunification center. What you can imagine has just been an excruciating couple of hours, a very long night.
And we start with Fox 29 anchor Mike Trim, who's closer to what's left of the condo building. Mike, what are you seeing and what latest information do you have this morning?
Well, we're seeing something right now that can hopefully help out those firefighters with those fires reigniting and just a torrential downpour moving through the area. But we do want to show you some video from earlier as we're telling you about 159 people now unaccounted for and the confirmation of 4 victims in this. 3 more were found in the overnight hours, according to Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. A news conference just wrapped up minutes ago, and that's where we heard that information. Right now, we're still searching for the answer, though, how this could have happened. That answer has not been given yet. We know there was roof work being done on top of this 12-story condo, along with a recertification process that happens every 40 years within Miami-Dade County, as this was built in 1981. And producers, you're passing along some information. Please tell me that again. Okay, let's hear from an interview from earlier from that news conference. Listen to this.
I can assure you that these fire rescue personnel, the best in the world, the ones that are called upon to come out in crises everywhere, are working as hard as could possibly be. They are so motivated.
Right now, let's get to Camrell Eppinger. He is at that reunification center to see much more on that. Cam?
Mike, good morning. Yes, I'm here at the reunion. Now, while many families and loved ones hope for a positive outcome, the county has set up a hotline for people to report any missing persons. That number on your screen, 305-614-1819. I'm Camrell Eppinger. We're live in Surfside. WFLX, Fox 29 News. We've got you covered.
Okay, you hate to see that rain coming down. That's exactly what we knew was heading in that direction all morning. We saw last night that it did put a pin in some of those search and rescue operations for a bit. You can only imagine that is probably going to be the case right now. So we will continue to follow that. Again, the death toll. All righty, coming up after the break, we're going to go back out live to Surfside, getting some new numbers here on the death toll, growing from 1 now to 4. Also, the number of unaccounted, that has grown as well to 159. The mayor of Miami-Dade says those rescue teams are so dedicated, they're having to be pulled off of their 12-hour shifts. All righty, we will come back here just a moment with the very latest. Don't go far. All right, let's get back to that Miami building collapse. I thought we were going to take a short break here. You can see a contingency, again, returning to the zone today where that building came down. We have groups from really all over this area of South Florida, that Miami metropolitan area, on the scene trying to help. We also heard a news conference earlier that additional resources, trained teams are coming in to hopefully provide more relief. We know that citizens of at least 4 South American countries, really a true...
Breaking news from WPTV News Channel 5.
They are proceeding because they are so motivated and they are taking extraordinary risk on the scene every day.
Miami-Dade Mayor Daniela Cava says rescue teams in Surfside are so committed to finding survivors, they're having to pull them off of their 12-hour shifts. It has been now 33 and a half hours since that 12-story condominium came crashing to the ground in that coastal community. 4 people now reported dead. The medical examiner is trying to identify who they are.
Also, some updated information. 159 people are unaccounted for, but loved ones and first responders are holding on to hope they're alive.
Yeah, our team coverage of this catastrophe continues today.
We begin with WPTV News Channel 5 anchor Mike Trim near the high-rise in Surfside.
Yeah, I just took a walk around the block closer to that rubble, and you can just smell the smoke. You can even see the smoke visibly behind me within those trees. That second building is the one we're talking about. That's the condo that collapsed. It was 3 towers, 1 full tower of it collapsed, and more than a dozen units destroyed. Now, we talked about the 159 people unaccounted for. That rubble, that's what they're solely focusing on right now. Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, the chief told us in a news conference at 8 o'clock, they're not trying to move any people out of the part that didn't collapse. So solely on the rubble. And what does that mean? That means they're bringing in heavy machinery, heavy equipment. Let me show you some video of what this damage looks like from the beach side where this did collapse. And we can see crews just spent all night searching through that rubble. They're exploring every tap, and to them, every sound, they're treating it as if it were a trapped person underneath that rubble. But many are asking, and I'm sure you are at home, how did this happen in the first place? This morning, I caught up with the Surfside mayor, and I asked him what investigators are doing right now at this hour to figure out what happened.
We'd be looking at all the building records. We'd be looking at the plans. I think once the debris is cleared, we'll have a better understanding of what's going on in the foundation. So, you know, again, that's my business. I know that, but I'm not focused on that at all. I'm only focused on applying the resources that we have, which are unlimited at this point, literally. So that's this, you know, we've got heroes working over there, guys that ran into the building. It was categorized as imminently dangerous of falling down.
When you're talking about 159 people still unaccounted for, those are a lot of people that are cared for, that people care for them, and there are a lot of families that are affected by this. Our camera Leppinger has been in tune with those families. He is at the center where they're all meeting and hoping to hear some shred of good news. Cam, what's the latest from your scene?
Found in the rubble. We're now reporting live in Surfside. I'm Camera Leppinger. Mike, back to you.
Great work, Kim. And you know, the world is watching this story right now here in South Florida. And it's not just our crews catching up with the families that have people possibly trapped in that rubble. NBC News' Kerry Sanders, he has some stories of some people that are just holding on hope that their loved ones survived.
In an instant, nearly half the units in this 12-story building were reduced to ruin, leaving...
He steals them for...
Again, that is a look right here live of the condo built in 1981. So they have finished searching those rooms you're taking a look at for anybody that might be unaccounted for. It is believed that all those unaccounted for could be in that rubble. When directly asked, the officials at a news conference at 8 o'clock, what makes you think that there are signs of life underneath that rubble? All of them kind of replied the same and said, we are holding on to hope, and we are going to keep doing this until the job's done. So nothing that directly gave them a sign, perhaps, but just a very hopeful attitude. Perhaps that's what's needed in a situation like this. We are live here in Surfside right now. I'm Mike Trim for WPTV News Channel 5. We'll be live at the next half hour for you.
You know, the more stories you hear, the more interviews, it just really tugs at the heartstrings. Mike, we will check back in with you shortly. There are a number of ways that you can help support.
Continuing coverage of the partial building collapse in Miami.
Yelling to each other, are you still there? Are you still there?
Covering every angle.
Corrosive environment of salt air.
Taking you there live.
It was pretty terrifying.
On TV, online, and streaming. Watch WPTV.
Right now on WPTV News Channel 5.
34 hours now since the northeast side of the Champlain South Towers condominium building came crashing to the ground in Surfside.
For those clinging to hope, it's been a sleepless night over at the Reunification Center.
Our team coverage continues now with WPTV anchor Mike Trim. He is live near the scene of that collapsed building. Mike.
Yeah, Holly, the one thing that you can really sense here as the time moves on is the smell of smoke from that rubble. That's because a fire reignited overnight, and the fire crews just did such a good job, and they're continuing to put the water on that pile of rubble where they're focusing on the search for survivors right now. But look, kind of let me show you this. You see the row of mobile command units. If you kept walking down the block until that second building you see there, which is the condo in question that collapsed, there are up to 150 firefighters that are helping out, according to the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Fire Chief, saying that at a news conference this morning. FEMA, all the way up to the federal level, helping as well. Word from the White House, President Joe Biden saying that he will send whatever help Florida needs. The focus, though, right here, the micro focus is on that pile of rubble. 159 people still unaccounted for, and that's what they're focusing on, every single sound. Let's see some video of the debris right now, and it's just kind of unbelievable to look at. Still shocking, this video that we're going to show you. The video and the sounds that they hear, they're treating that as every sound they hear is a person trapped inside that rubble, and they're trying to rescue it as such. We did catch up with the Surfside mayor earlier today, one-on-one, and I asked him, I'm like, well, you know, we're still here. It's not only the rescue, but what happened here? How could this have happened? What are you looking at right now today to figure this out? And here's what he had to say.
Yeah, well, that is the question. And buildings in America don't fall down like this. We've seen that once in 2001, and we saw both of these buildings come down like a pancake. It was shocking. And you know, that's an understatement. But today's not the day for that. Tomorrow's not the day for that. But we will get to the bottom of why those buildings fell down.
Yeah, back live here, about a block away from that condo. A lot of people are at another location waiting to hear something, some shred of good news about their loved one out of those 159 that are unaccounted for. Our camera Leppinger, he is at that Reunification Center here in Surfside, and he's joining us live now with the very latest from that scene.
Yeah, Mike, morning in Surfside. I'm Camera Leppinger, WPTV News Channel 5. Mike, back to you.
Yeah, back to that specific investigation about the building. New reports today that it possibly had been sinking for decades. Built in 1981, this was going through its 40-year recertification process, and where that was in the process is still in question. NBC News' Sam Brock took a closer look at that, and here's his story.
This stunning look from above, revealing a condo complex with an entire section gone. The portion of this map in red is what used to be standing at the Champlain Towers South just over 24 hours ago and is now a pile of debris continued or contributed to Thursday's collapse. The attorney for the condo association says any rush to judgment on what might have caused the collapse is unfair and premature.
There was no warning that the building was it's subject to a threat to collapse. There has to be
how it progressed.
Back here live outside of the scene, across the street from the condo here in Surfside that collapsed yesterday in the middle of the night. Looking through the governor's schedule, starting at 1, just roughly after 1, he's going to be briefed by the emergency officials here in Surfside, the dozens and dozens of teams that have been working. He's also going to meet with those families that are holding on hope. When directly asked today, those officials that held the news conference at 8 o'clock, what gives you the sense that there is somebody still alive underneath all that rubble? And rather than answering that directly, they just said, well, we are holding on hope, and we're going to continue to do this day in and day out until we find the answers that people are looking for. Right now, we are live in Surfside, though. I'm Mike Trim from Wptv News Channel 5. Back to you.
So many people in that boat holding out hope right now. Mike, looking a little bit behind you there. Nice to see a break in the clouds. Guys, obviously, those first responders out there, those search teams, they could use all the help they can get.
Oh, yeah, and that rain certainly welcome to help fight those fires as well. You were seeing a lot of smoke earlier this morning, Mike. I know you told us that. So hopefully that helped things out a little bit down there.
All right, let's get to James Whelan now. James, what is the latest?
Yeah, just tracking these showers.
As officials have warned, the death toll from the building collapse in Miami-Dade is likely to grow, now at 4. But they aren't ready to call off that search.
They still believe there's reason to have some hope. One last check now with Mike Trim, who's near the residential building. How are things going down there?
Got to show you this live video that we have right now. Let's get right to it. Teams of those search and rescue crew members, they are taking buckets of debris and water out from that big pile of rubble that is the sole focus of those 159 unaccounted for people. That's where they're searching right now. We are waiting for another news conference, possibly today, to get some sort of update. Of course, stay with WPTV.com and your app for the very latest.
All right, that live picture there gives you really just a perspective on how tedious that task is. Mike Trim spearheading our coverage from the field. We have several reporters behind the scenes covering multiple angles. Our coverage picks back up at 4 this afternoon.